Is Good Day Oregon Plus.
This is actually Fox 12 now, but let's go ahead.
Local. This is Good Day.
Okay. We'll just go ahead and go live here. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. This is Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. Let's go ahead and pull that up. There we go. Perfect. Thank you. We are live streaming here to the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom, and of course, wherever you find us, we do appreciate it. And you can hear those sounds in the background, and that is because we are bringing you the latest on what is happening with the trial that is going on in downtown Portland in District Court, associated with, just to recap for you in case you don't know, the city of Portland, the state of Oregon, and the state of California suing the Trump administration regarding the legality of using National Guard troops and deploying them to Portland, specifically to that ICE facility in South Portland. So this trial is in its second day. We're hours now into the second day, and we've got all the information there for you that we're going to recap. Joining us, Spencer Schacht, who has been down there covering this for the last 2 days. And Spencer, thanks for being here. You know, for people who are joining and wanting to understand, you know, what's been happening today, and we understand some new information we're going to get to you as well. Can you maybe give us just a couple of the highlights of things, of what's actually been happening today at the trial?
Yeah, for sure, Greg. So today is day two. On day one, the plaintiffs in this case, which is the state of Oregon, state of California, and the city of Portland, they called multiple witnesses yesterday, one more witness this morning, and then they said that was all the witnesses they had. So they turned it over to the defense side. They haven't rested their case just yet, but the defense was allowed to call their first witness. And so the first witness called for the defense was the Deputy Regional Director of Federal Protective Services. His testimony has been going on since before the lunch break this morning. And so, yeah, a lot of information coming from him back and forth on staffing at the ICE facility and the use of federal agents to kind of protect those federal buildings down on the South Waterfront.
So definitely, you know, a change here, getting to hear from that side of things, and this is what's been going on here today. And to remind everybody too, so this is just the procedural side of things. While the court is in session, we cannot report on anything that's happening until they take a recess. Then we have a whole bunch of information that comes to us all at once to get to you and to understand that. So hearing from that side of things, from the deputy director there, let's go into, you know, maybe some of the key things that you heard from that, Spencer, or whatever you think is really important here to get out there.
Yeah, so let's start just with the direct examination. So these are the questions that the federal attorney is asking the deputy director of the Federal Protection Services. They're kind of giving an overview of his job. We're currently in Region 10 that controls 4 states, Alaska, Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. He's based in Washington, and he is the program manager that also oversees the security for the buildings. He said in court he is responsible for implementing inspectors and commanders to go on yearly building loads. Each facility has requirements to have the facility security assessment, and that varies based off of what type of activity they've seen outside of the facility. So he was going on to say during his testimony that because of the protests that have been going on, they really focused on June 14th as the big day of protests outside the ICE facility that really started the snowball out on the South Waterfront. And he said since that day, they have required a lot more federal resources at the building. On June 14th, there was a large protest outside the ICE building, and in that time, there were multiple arrests made because protesters chained the front doors of the ICE facility, threw weights through the windows on the first floor, and that was really kind of the kickoff of the clash between protesters and the federal agents. He did concede that PPB did help out on June 14th. They came out to the ICE facility, made targeted arrests in the crowds, arrested people who were having arrested for property crime, assault, other crimes that don't have to deal with immigration, because that was a big point made earlier this morning and yesterday that PPB can't interfere with any immigration enforcement because of Oregon and Portland sanctuary city laws. So looking at the testimony, he talked about, does he think that he would get similar support from PPB along at future protests outside the building? And this deputy director said they would not get as much support in Portland as they would in other cities like Spokane, who also have ICE facilities and protests going out there. Another big point that they were talking about on that June 14th day was just how many officers they have coming and what type of schedule they have. So because he said they would love to have 180 officers on duty to protect that building on their 24/7 security that they've moved into since June 14th. But he's saying they don't have the staff to do that just then, and that at the beginning of each rotation, they used to last 30 days, but because they're asking so much of their federal agents, they've changed that down to 20-day rotations for mental health of the officers. And then looking through the notes here, they said that they do use a lot of different types of weapons when it comes to crowd control, and that includes tear gas canisters, pepper balls, and I just lost it here. Long-range acoustic devices like megaphones to give the crowd time to know that when they are coming and going from the building. They're warning folks to get out of the way of the gate before they open fire, and they say if they don't clear, that's when the officers come out, kind of push the crowd back, and if the crowd isn't working, that's when he says they use pepper balls and tear gas to try to disperse the crowd.
All right, and this is all, stuff that we're finding out here. So Spencer's going through it on his phone. I'm taking a look at the documents to get this to you, and this is, excuse me, freshly released information from this session. So hearing about it, for today, the first time from the Trump side. I'm seeing a couple of other notes in here too. Just talking about the. Let's see, this is from Brian Marshall, State of Oregon. RC and regional directors weren't consulted before Kristi Noem visit, before the president declared the deployment. Do we know much about that as far as the statement along those lines? Just to reiterate that.
Yeah, so that was in the cross-examination.
Okay.
So they
all right,
the federal government, their attorney rested asking their questions, or not rested, they said they didn't have any more questions for this witness, so then it was the state's turn to start asking questions, and on the cross-examination, they were really asking questions about his job and the communication with federal agents in D.C. and heads of state, like what they're hearing from the Trump administration, what they're hearing from Kristi Noem, what they're hearing from Pete Hegseth. And he said at one point that regional directors like himself were not consulted before Kristi Noem announced that she was going to visit, and they were not consulted before the president declared that he was going to deploy the National Guard on September 28th. So he said a lot of the issues were really happening on June 14th. Then there were months where there was not a whole lot of protest activity, and that protest activity didn't kick up again until after the president announced that he was going to deploy the National Guard. The state of Oregon did ask this regional director what his first reaction was upon learning that there was the deployment of the National Guard to Portland, and he said, I quote, "What would I do with 200 guardsmen?" And he also said he does not agree with the president's characterization that Portland is burning down.
And that is just to clarify this again for everybody, that is the regional director of Federal Protective Services who is saying this.
Yes, that's right.
So that is the person saying that. What would I do with 200 guardsmen? So that was clarified in there. It does not agree with the characterization of that Portland is burning down. So again, just reiterating what you just said. Now this is still continuing here. So we're on recess, but I believe they will be coming back, most likely to go right up until the 5 o'clock deadline, I'm assuming. They had their lunch break. They went for lunch for about an hour, around like 12:30 to 1:30. So all of this information that we're talking about now, this cross and direct questioning, this was what happened this afternoon after their lunch break. They just went on their recess around 3 o'clock, and that usually takes 15-20 minutes for recess. Let folks get up, stretch their legs, get out of the courtroom for a little bit, and then they'll go back to the courtroom and they'll continue with this line of questioning of the federal attorneys, defense witnesses, probably through the end of the day, right up to 5 o'clock. All right, and we will be bringing you all of this info as we get it. And this recess just happened right before Spencer joined us here on air. So this is brand new information that we have out here while they're on recess now. And to reiterate that, while they're in court, we are not allowed to report on anything. You can't. As soon as they go to recess, that's when we have that more information. So Spencer's been covering this all day. giving us these updates. And I know you'll be here for our 4 o'clock news and onward, so we'll have plenty more information. But Spencer, excuse me, while I have you, is there anything else that you think is important that we should get to people with this update?
Yeah, just a reminder what this case is all about. The crux of this case is the question of whether or not President Trump has the authority to send in troops to cities like Portland. And this was actually kind of a point of contention earlier in the day when the state and the city attorneys for Portland and the state of Oregon were asking a lot of questions about October 18th and the way that the federal agents were using use of force against protesters and other law enforcement agencies. The judge kind of put a stop to that line of questioning and asked the attorneys for the state and the city, where are you going with this? Remember, why are you talking so much about use of force? Remember, we are here to talk about the deployment of the National Guard. We're not here to talk about the use of force against protesters. So there has been some times where in this court case today where the judge kind of had to lead the plaintiffs back to the matter at hand, which is whether or not Trump has the authority to issue or to send in the National Guard, federalize those guardmen, and send them into cities like Portland. And so that is really what they are trying to focus on as they get this next line of questioning from these defense witnesses, including this regional director of FPS.
And this is going to continue on, as I mentioned, through, well, at least until 5 o'clock. We believe there's a deadline at 5 to where the court will end for the day, but they do have tomorrow as well. It does seem like this is heading toward tomorrow. Not that we know that for sure. That'll be the judge's call and what happens there as far as how many people do get to go through all of their witnesses. But I would think this is leaning toward tomorrow. We'll find out more later on, but we'll have all the latest for you and all those updates here throughout the evening. And of course, you can go to kptv.com also and get updates on all the information that's been happening. And Spencer, let's go ahead and just want to say, thanks too for joining us and for being here, getting us that info. You can hear the traffic there where Spencer's at the time of day. And, we continue on here, and you've been out there all day, and we just appreciate it. So thanks, Spencer. If there's anything else that changes, we'll talk to you then. But otherwise, I'm sure everybody will see you around 4 o'clock.
Yes, exactly. See you at 4, Greg.
All right. Thanks, Spencer. And this is, for everybody watching here, what we've been covering, what we've been doing here for the last 2 days is bringing you information as soon as we get it. That's why I have a bunch of paperwork printed out in my hand going through this. We have a huge team that's following this, and we, again, appreciate all their hard work, but we're bringing you it as quick as we can. And if there are any more updates, we'll have those for you as well. But as I just mentioned, kptv.com, that's a great way to follow up if you want to really dig into all the things that are happening, what's happened previously. There's a lot over these 2 days, a lot of testimony. We heard a lot from the Portland Police Bureau yesterday. Now we're hearing from the defense side today. So it will continue on, and we'll find out more about what's taking place once they go back into session later on today. But I think that's it for right now. For those of you watching on YouTube, you see this video end. If you're watching on the apps, thanks for joining us. Thanks for being a part of this. We're going to be taking a break, and if there is more information, more news that we can bring you, we will certainly do that. But for right now, thanks for joining us. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.